Tensions are high along the border separating the two Koreas as South and North Korea conduct psychological warfare against each other with balloons filled with trash or anti-propaganda leaflets and loudspeaker broadcasts. And for some South Koreans living near the border, it is a worrying development. Well, CNA senior Korea correspondent Lim Yun-suk has more.
About an hour's drive from the capital Seoul is this quiet village near the heavily militarized border dividing the two Koreas. Many living here are elderly South Koreans who made this place their home after the end of the Korean War in 1953. Across that river is North Korea, and on a clear day you're able to see North Koreans walking around and also their houses, because that place is only about 1.5 kilometers away from where I'm standing here in Taedong village in Paju, Gyeonggi province. 58-year-old Park Young-chin is the head of Taedong-li and one of the youngest living in the village of about 300 people. He tells me recent tensions have caused some concern. For some, because it could hurt their livelihood. Mr. Park says the rice field of about 654 acres beyond those barbed wires belongs to the villagers.
근데 저게 굴을 통과해야만이 농기계를 끌고 들어가거든요. 근데 이제 그게 만약에 서로 대치할 때는 이제 만약 걔들이 위험성이 약간 이제 가격에 나간다 그러면 이제 안개 끼거나 뭐 위험성일 때는 못 나가게 해 군인들이. 왜냐 저희가 만약에 나갔다가 불이익을 당하거나 뭐 다치거나 이러면 책임을 져야 되니까.
They were prevented from working the fields many times in the past when tensions were high. But this has not happened since 2018, despite recent escalations. Growing up here, Mr. Park witnessed firsthand the music and propaganda blasting from loudspeakers on both sides. So did these elderly villagers who lived through the Korean War from 1950 to 1953. 87-year-old grandmother Chang Seok-kum tells me she's not fearful of the threats from North Korea, but she is a bit worried for the younger generation.
13살에 6.25가 났는데 여기서 이렇게 늙어 다 살았으니까 애들이 불쌍하잖아. 기분이 전장할 것 같아. 왜? 철놈들이 뭐 이것도 방송도 수리하고 그러잖아.
Cho Chang-hyun, who grew up here and now lives in Seoul, says it is a bit of a concern, though he trusts the South Korean military is capable of protecting its people.
불안한 감을 이제는 느끼지 않는 게 옛날하고는 그때 우리가 뭐 탱크도 한 대 없었지 총도 하나 없었지 그런 체제 때가 우리가 걱정이 되고 힘들었지 지금은 우리나라가 사실 알게 모르게 무기 발전도 엄청 됐고 뭐 경제는 물론이고요 그다음에 우방국하고 동맹 관계도 옛날하고는 틀리죠 그러니까 지금 봐서는 우리 입장에서는 그렇게 큰 우려를 하지 않습니다 전쟁이 나도.
But the majority of South Koreans do not believe the current escalations will lead to another conflict on the Korean peninsula. Rather, they're seen as just some of many tit-for-tat actions between the two Koreas, which remain technically at war. Lim Yun-suk, CNA, Paju, Gyeonggi Province, South Korea.
And for more, Yun-suk herself joins us live now from Seoul. Yun-suk, I want to highlight this incident more than a decade ago where North Korea shelled Yongpyeon Island during a period of heightened tensions with South Korea returning fire. And that unfortunately resulted in deaths as well as injuries. We've heard some of the reactions from your story earlier from the elder generation. But are South Koreans, concerned that, something like that could happen again?
Oh, yes, they are. And that's why, when tensions are high here, you do have residents along the border who are nervous and they know that they could be the next target. And that's why some of them go, they go out to the streets holding press conferences or even rallies trying to urge the South Korean government to reduce the tension. And also, like, for example, when you have the activists and the defectors here sending balloons to North Korea, those residents along the border usually hold protest rallies saying that they're against that because they're worried that the North Koreans could take some provocative action, like perhaps firing at the balloons, because they are worried that, anything that South Korea does, it would just trigger these provocations from North Korea. And so, when you hear North Korea says that it will be carrying out more provocative acts, the first thing that comes to the minds of many South Koreans here, and I think for me too, is, whether North Korea will be bombing another island like it did with Yeonpyeong-do.
Well, and Yoon Suk, it seems like tensions not likely to go away under the Yoon administration. But given how things are progressing these days, would you say that we're past the point of reconciliation?
Well, Tilly, many experts here do believe that North Korea is very different from what it was in the past and that the situation has changed between the two Koreas, especially since North Korea's leader, Kim Jong-un, in January said that the unification with South Korea was no longer possible and that North Korea will be changing its constitution to designate South Korea as its principal enemy. Now, many experts here and government officials do believe that North Korea is in the process of doing that, though it is taking some time for that to be completed because it means that the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, is breaking away from what his father, Kim Jong-il, and his grandfather, the founder of North Korea, Kim Il-sung, wanted to achieve, and that is to unite South and North Korea. But, also we have the joint military drills between South Korea and the United States taking place this summer. And so tensions are expected to increase in the coming weeks. But, anything is possible because now we do have this conservative South Korean government. And that's when we do see the tensions being high. But when you have a liberal president here in South Korea who wants to engage with North Korea despite the provocations and the advancement of North Korea's missile and nuclear programs, we may see North Korea coming back again to reconcile with South Korea. So, we really will have to see when it comes to relations between the two Koreas.
So there is still hope after all, no matter how small it is. Thanks so very much, Lim Yoon Suk there, speaking to us live from Seoul.